As you all know, Sonic.EXE The Disaster has been taken down for around half a year now. And with that, there have been many remakes of the game trying to make it to a form of glory. With all of them, almost every single one has failed or has very low player counts, except for one. This game is known as Sonic.EXE The Disaster Eclipsed. In today's video, we're going to be going through everything that this game did right and why it has on average 10 times the amount of players than every other remake does. We'll also be going through how this game succeeded while other games failed in their aspects. Without further ado, make sure to like and subscribe so you can get more TD content, more Sonic.EXE content. But anyways, let's begin with what is Sonic.EXE The Disaster Eclipsed. Well, to begin, Sonic.EXE The Disaster Eclipsed is like any other disaster remake. You know, you have your normal survivors, you have your EXEs, you have all the regular maps, but right there is where the similarities kind of drift. First thing that this game has is all the 1.4 characters and movesets. If you don't know what those were, is when 1.4 was supposed to release, almost every character was basically getting remade. So this means in this game, Tails has all 3 of his cannon modes, able to pick up teammates, Shadow has his Chaos Spears in a reset, and we also have 2 new characters that are inside of Eclipsed. These 2 being Metal Knuckles and Sonic. Then for the EXE side, we have 5 EXEs compared to the normal 3 that were in the original. These being Sonic.EXE, Colossus, Tails Doll, Nexus, and Lord.EXE. As you can see from here, this game has an insanely large cast of characters. First of all, having 5 EXEs and having so many survivors, since they didn't only add Sonic and Metal Knuckles, they also added Charmby, Espio, and Vector, being 5 new characters to the game. Now, you might want to say, how does this make difference from almost every other remake, since most people do this? Well, sets aside, all the movesets are really fleshed out, and certain characters actually kind of strive away from 1.4. For example, Amy loses her hammer spin, but now has a bounce attack, which allows her to hit the EXE or gain distance and height. Or for example, Eggman's able to supercharge Metal Sonic and Metal Knuckles, while only able to place down 3 turrets instead of 5. They mainly changed up the game a lot from the aspects, and made it a lot better and a lot more smoother to play, since inside of this game, it is really hard to win as survivors. Might be because of lag, but we'll get to that later. And because of all these new characters and overall general features, this game does have an influx of around 2,000 active players. And of course, Nexus and Lord.EXE are 2 EXEs that were never in the original, and these 2 are very different, being Nexus is a pure rushdown even faster than Colossus's charge, and you have Lord.EXE being basically a counter to every character, able to teleport and block. And probably the most important thing that sets this aside from most other remakes has got to be the actual playability. Y'all might hate me for this comparison, but let's compare Sonic.EXE The Disaster Reborn. Of course, this game has a lot more development, but from when this game dropped, and I played it around 3 months back, to when Reborn first was available, there was major differences. First of all, with this remake, there's very little bugs. Almost all of your attacks hit on time. The only bug I've encountered is when grabbing a survivor as Tails, you kind of just fly into the abyss, but even then, bugs like those are so slim. Out of the 100 matches I've played, I've only encountered 1 or 2 at most. Including the fact that almost every other remake has the issue of Rouge's sensors being placed around the map, meanwhile she's not even a playable character. This game actually fixes bugs like those, and fixes many things that would crash people who are playing on mobile or any other device. I mean, when Silver Speed thing stacks 18 times and the particles explode around you, you know, you're not really getting the frames you require. Of course, this could be because of how long the game has been out for now, but overall, it seems to be like a step ahead of every other remake in quality-wise. Then, of course, this game, all the maps are different. What I mean by different is, for example, Not Perfect has a complete and total remake, which looks a lot better, but then other maps such as You Can't Run, Hide and Seek Act 1, Hide and Seek Act 2, just have very minimal changes that make them more fluid and a better map. Especially for the fact that they gave the EXEs a lot more ways to get up into areas, and because of how their kits work, it makes it a lot more accessible for players who are playing on mobile or on other devices that are laggy, since you're able to get up to heights a lot easier. And another thing that comes onto the maps is the maps are generally not sided to one character or to one survivor team. For example, if you played on a map you can't run as a survivor, it was generally survivor-sided, especially against someone like Tailsdoll, because if you had a Blaze or a Shadow on your team, you could just keep knocking the EXE off, and Tailsdoll or even the normal EXEs will have to come all the way back up just to get to you now. But they've mainly fixed this by adding so many new ways to get into areas, and new areas that basically expand on the original map without being too intrusive. I mean, believe me, I played some remakes where You Can't Run has 18 things, or for some reason Hill Gym looks like Hill Gym 2, with double the aspects and 3 floors. At that point, the EXE isn't even finding us. And personally, what I like about this game is the fact that it's mainly killer-sided. Now, this might sound like a bad thing to you, but remember, you have to remember the aspects of Sonic.EXE. You and 6 other survivors are just hopelessly trying to survive. The guarantee for leaving, or at least one of you escaping, is already slim as is. And since many characters in this game have gotten many buffs on the EXE side, it's pretty bloody mental. And this comes into our new thing of how they changed the EXEs up. If you look at some other remakes, they've added Fleetway and stuff which are cool, but they're quite literally just a copy of OMs. No, you have a Faithful Drain, you got your Spin Dash, yada yada. But here, they mainly kept the original movesets for the EXEs, but changed them up in a way to make them stronger than usual. For example, Tailsdoll's traps and slash no longer do insane damage, but instead do slash damage. This basically means that when you have over 20 slash damage, or even any number, and you get hit, that gets added onto it. So instead of Tailsdoll only doing 35, if you have 25 slash, you will be taking 60. Or Colossus, for example, when he charges forward and hits you, if he hits a wall, does 35 damage, or he impales you with his arm and brings you away from other survivors. And of course, Sonic.EXE getting 8 clones instead of the usual 4. Changes like these make the game feel a lot more like the original, where survivors weren't meant to win. As you know, in the original, minions did upwards of 15 damage, so if you even had 2 against you and you still had to survive 5 minutes, you were done for. Especially when we have characters like Nexus who, when you attack one person, can damage the entire team at once. You know, you're not surviving unless if you play very well. And of course, this isn't to say that it's completely killer-sided, because you can definitely win with insane amount of teamwork, but most of the time you will lose some people, and it's very hard to win a match with no one dying. That's what makes the game fresh, because in many other times, we've seen that the killers are so weak compared to the survivors, or survivors have such broken movesets that can send them across the map, that it's really unfair to play as the EXE. And most of the time, people skip. I mean, why'd you want to skip the best role in the game? I don't really know. And as of right now, the game is on the version 1.39, about to reach 1.4, where we're most likely adding cosmetics and even more features. Overall, Sonic.EXE The Disaster Eclipsed is a really good remake that tends to work better than everything else. Now, why it's the best one while other ones fail is generally its characters are all fleshed out with very little bugs. There's no complete lag that completely destroys the game like when Reborn was first released, and it was thoroughly play-tested. Third, for the amount of time it's been out, it's actively being developed and worked on, having changes almost every 2 days. For example, 2 weeks ago, Tailsdoll got the change to the slash damage. Before, she was just normal Tailsdoll. Especially for a fact that they're always working to make the game better, that is one of the major things that sets it aside from other ones, which take like 10 years per update. And another thing is they actually listen to the community. If you join the Discord, which I don't have the link for, cause yeah, well, basically, they always ask when we do new implementation of updates to see if people agree with them or they should be changed in some way. Mostly doing polls or asking people in general. And not to mention, there's no really drama inside of these games. You know, it's like issues with Reborn getting taken down, OM getting canceled. This game, I haven't seen anything really. Just a couple of dudes making a game and, you know, having Sonic.EXE swing. And because of those reasons, that's why we generally see this game doing a lot better than other ones. Even though 2,000 players doesn't seem like a lot, and nowhere close to the original, it's still one of the better ones on Roblox, and most likely the best of as now. Of course, we'll have to wait until Re-Execution comes out, and who knows, that game might be on a whole new level. But for the generalization of TD remakes, I see Sonic.EXE The Disaster Eclipsed as the perfect and second implementation of Sonic.EXE, the true sequel to the game getting cancelled. If you want to check out this game yourself, make sure to search up Sonic.EXE The Disaster Eclipsed or just Sonic.EXE The Disaster, since it's normally the first thing that shows up. Of course, I recommend all of you to play it, but you know, we're going to be doing a lot more videos on this game and overall TD in general. So if you liked this video, make sure... But anyways, that's going to be it for today's video. If you liked it, make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this. And tell me, what do you think of Disaster Eclipsed? Or which one do you think is better than the game? Of course, you know, everyone has their own opinions. Can't wait to see next update of when we bring skins and so much more. But anyways, that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you all liked and enjoyed. And if I don't catch you in game, then I'll catch you next video. Later.